the landscape and the NIL money and the transfer portal and limited opportunities to really compete at UCLA. And I think he looked around and just thought, hey, this knows Ryan Day. Ohio State's one of the big boys. I haven't seen him this happy. I'm around him all the time like you. I mean, he looks like he looked years at the early stages of Oregon. He's just in a film room. He's drawing plays up. So I think he's done a remarkable job to go through what they went through in the Michigan game and to have everybody say, oh, gosh, what's going on with this offensive line? And why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And then to see them put together these 3 games has been remarkable. A big part of it's been what the design with the offensive line, and I think they put Will Howard in a favorable position. So yeah, done a great job. Marcus Freeman winning, what would it do? I mean, just getting here to me. Again, I'm an interesting age. I grew up, I used to go to a department store to watch Lindsey Nelson do highlights. We move along to the third quarter, and you didn't have a lot of channels, and I would watch Notre Dame like everybody else. And to watch Notre Dame be Notre Dame for so many years, and then after the Lou Holtz era, they just kind of tried to fight for relevancy. They've been searching. This is not something that just happened over the last 3 years. Notre Dame, I mean, you have to almost go back to the early to mid-'90s was the last time Notre Dame was like really a giant in this sport. And so what he's been able to do in 3 short years is not just getting here, but the culture that he's been able to create, I think, is probably the most impressive, whether they win this game or not. To go where they have been, to go where they are now, where they're heading with Marcus Freeman. If I were a Notre Dame fan, like this is to me going to be a really exciting era, because when they get on the field with Georgia, when they get on the field with Ohio State, it feels different than it has in the past. I think it's because of the recruiting, the development, and the culture that I talked about. So yeah, I already put him at that legendary status. Never be a head coach at Notre Dame with all that pressure, and to get him here, man, that's a heck of a start. I think he's done great. I mean, I think it's a game-by-game breakdown of what they've faced. I mean, when the offensive line, when you lose Josh Simmons, then you lose eventually Seth McLaughlin. I mean, that's 2 NFL players, the Remington winner. I don't know. I know Ohio State recruits well, but I don't know if people – it's the same thing Notre Dame actually went through with their offensive line. I don't know if people just realize how hard that is to lose a center like that, the communication. So – to go through the Michigan game and then recalibrate for Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and now Notre Dame. All year, I think they're not looking to score 60 points. This isn't one of those offenses. I think they're looking to their defense is, if not the best in the country, it's been pretty good all year long. I think he's just called a smart game. He hasn't asked Will Howard to do too much. He's taken advantage of the pieces that he has around him. I think he's done a great job, especially in the first year. Yeah. I think, when Michigan won this last year and we were here, you looked at their roster, it was like senior. There's so many guys. And I thought, I don't know if we're in the new world of college football. I don't know if we're ever going to see, a experienced team get back. This might be a dinosaur. And now here we are again, especially defensively. That's why I try to bring that point up, because there's this narrative that Ohio State went out and bought 7 Caleb Downs. They got Caleb Downs. I mean, that's a great player. But that defense, you go, other than Imagn, everybody else has played a lot of football. They lost to Georgia. Lathan Ransom, he made a critical play or didn't make the play, caused a big touchdown for Georgia. He had to walk off that field knowing Ohio State played well enough to win. So he experienced it. That's just one guy. The Michigan losses, I think you come tighter as a group and team when you lose those games than beating Purdue and beating Michigan State. So you got not only a senior-laden team, you got a bunch of guys that have been through a bunch of junk together and got through it. And when they got through the Michigan game, that to me is the storyline that a lot of people aren't talking about. is how experienced these guys are. They all got together and said, we got one more run at this thing. We've been together a lot. Let's go get this. We have 4 games to go. And that's been their mission from the Michigan game. Once they got over it, we got 4 games to go. And I think it becomes from not just Ryan Day. I don't think Ryan Day could, and the Ohio State coaches, they would have had a much tougher time without having all those seniors on that defense.
I love the haters here. I want to ask a question.
He's listening.
He's listening.
Yeah.
Being from Centerville and your connection to Ohio State, what has this been like, and what is your family saying as well?
We're fired up. I mean, anytime Ohio State makes a run, it's a thrill for us, for my family. Having my son who's on the team makes it that much more exciting. I mean, I'm telling him, take videos of everything. I mean, you're going to be 40 years old one day and want to remember every aspect of this. He sent me a video. I wish I could give it to you guys. He was in the stands with his brothers in Dallas when Ohio State played Oregon. He was 12 years old, and he sent me this video. He had it focused on the clock, 10, 9, 8, 7. Confetti comes down. He's like, we just won the national championship. Then he turned it to himself and his brothers, and all going crazy. Just to kind of have those memories, and then to have him here full circle on a team that's playing in a national championship. So we're thrilled. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm obviously an Ohio State guy, but when the game starts for me, I just call the game.
What would you point to as like obvious reasons the offense is exploding like that?
I think Chip's put him in favorable situations. I think in the Michigan game with Mason Graham, who's probably a top 5 pick, and Kenneth Grant, I think they didn't probably, if they could do it over again, they would have adjusted a little quicker. With all those new faces up there, I think they did a lot of more inside zone. And they didn't do a good job of getting better blocking angles and helping this offensive line. And I think as the Tennessee game, and how about the way these games have started? Tennessee came in with a great deal of confidence with the way they played, leaving their corners on islands because they had played well. Jeremiah Smith first drive after the face mask, they're up 7-0. They get a 3-0. So they've been able to jump on people, regain some confidence. And then you know how it is. Once you get some confidence going, they keep taking shots. All of a sudden, it just became a new identity of, like, if you're going to leave your guys on islands, number 4 is going to beat you. Continued in the Oregon game. So I think it's been a combination of the offensive line being put in better, more favorable situations, gaining some confidence and some continuity going through those games. And then the Texas game, it was a totally, as you know, a very different thing. They took Smith away, and Chip had to adjust and find other ways to do it. So I'm excited to see what Notre Dame does. They're a man-to-man team. Are they going to leave their guys on islands? And are they going to be able to survive doing that? Because that's their MO. I think they're number 1 or 2 in the nation as far as defense playing man coverage. And one of their corners came out and said, hey, we do what we do. That's a lot of fireworks. Someone's band's going to be playing if that's the style that Notre Dame's going to be playing. But yeah, I think the offensive line's maturity, Chip putting them in better situations, and then that man-to-man situations, Will Howard with a clean pocket, making people pay for it. Yeah. Keep up the good work. Yeah. Next year? Oh my God. If you have a list of the transfer portal, I have no idea. I guess the usual cast of characters, although this year has been fun. We've seen some teams that have kind of come out of nowhere and I love the 12-team playoff because you just never know who might get hot and get a chance to get in. Ohio State is going to completely rebuild on defense. That'll be exciting to see, how they are able to rebuild, because if anybody can, it would be Ohio State. They have some young players that are anxious. Notre Dame looks like a team that is built for the long haul. I don't feel like they're going to go away. And I think it's not like George is going to forget how to recruit and get players. So I think you're going to look at the same kind of. I think Clemson might be, with a veteran quarterback, they could be a team as well. That could be back and be in the mix. But I think it's your normal teams probably reloading, and hopefully some more teams keep coming off the radar. It's fun to see that.
Hold on. We got a mic.
I think that the 12-team playoff format has sort of helped build the anticipation for each, CFP rally. And then how does this match up with it being Ohio State Notre Dame compared to some of the other type of anticipation for other national
I love. I'm from Ohio, so I love the two brands that are here. I mean, I don't know if you could ask for much more than Ohio State and Notre Dame. 60 minutes of football, be the best team win for the national championship. I mean, that's pretty cool. I've called this game since '09. I don't know how many years that is. They all seem to have their own thing that you get excited about. It's not like I've ever showed up to a national championship and been like, I mean, I'm always into it. I think the 12-team playoff makes it a little bit more interesting because losing to Michigan and yet overcoming that kind of tells you that usually in the old days, if you lose to Michigan, you're done. You don't go to the Big Ten championship, chances are you're done. Here, still to qualify into the postseason and then to get hot. And so that's new. Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois, still getting in, making a run. I think that's great. I think March Madness, one of the things that's exciting about that is no matter what you've done, it's who can get hot at the right time. And I think we're all learning. That's kind of what I think on the down part of that is you're taking away from some of the rivalries, the meaning, the impact of what it means to win that game, other than the pride of it. Because now it may affect the seeding, but it's really not, you lost, too bad, you're done. You still are going to, chances are, be there. So it's all new for us. We're all kind of learning as we go, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's been a lot of fun.
So what was your initial reaction when you found out it was going to be Notre Dame and Ohio State getting to call that game and knowing the history of these programs and these fan bases?
Well, we were in Miami watching Penn State and Notre Dame. He and I were on the field watching that one. We had a game day and a halftime hit. So I watched that to the very end and standing right underneath the goalpost when they kicked the field goal. So I had a really good perspective of that game, the entire game. So I obviously already knew Notre Dame had won. And then we flew to Dallas to call the game the next day. And I'm calling that game, and it's coming down to the final drive. Texas looks like they may tie the game. Jack Sawyer makes the play, and Ohio State won. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I try to do a pretty good job. I don't go out of my way to, I just call a game. But I'm a fan. I'm a human. So when he returned that touchdown, I mean, part of me is kind of like the fan in me comes out. So, then they do Carmen, Ohio. That for me is where I can finally let my guard down and be in the moment. Because at the end of the day, I'm no different than anybody sitting on their couch. I just prepare and talk about it. I'm an Ohio State junkie. And so when they do well and I'm able to enjoy it, there's nobody more thrilled than me. So, yeah, I'll be locked in, and if that scarlet gray confetti comes down, I'm going to be trying to race to get to the field to hug my son and be a part of that celebration if they're lucky enough to win it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was just saying earlier, I don't know about you, I used to go to a department store and watch Lindsey Nelson do the highlight show on Sunday mornings. I can remember that vividly, living in Trotwood, Ohio, and I don't know why, I can't remember the name of the department store, but every Sunday in the fall I would go and listen. I'd sit down, there'd be like 20 of those TVs, and I'd sit down by myself. I was probably like 5 or 6, 7 years old and watch those highlights. We move ahead to the third quarter, and I never got the Notre Dame bug. I feel like you either loved Notre Dame or you wanted to beat Notre Dame. And I was probably one of the kids that wanted to beat Notre Dame because when I was young, Notre Dame was everything, everywhere. And I was an Ohio State guy, so I always was loving Ohio State. And the neighborhood that I lived in, there was a Catholic high school, Kettering Altar, and Centerville, and we were enemies, in our minds anyway. And I just always respected Notre Dame, but I never had that bug like a lot of people. It's like, if you're good enough, you're going to Notre Dame. I never really had that, but I can understand the mystique. And I was saying earlier to somebody, it's kind of gone away. And I really feel that Marcus, as long as he can stay there, I hope he stays there 20 years. he is bringing back, there just feels different. When they take the field, there's just something about him, and there's something about that brand I feel like is on its way back. And I don't think this is the culmination. I feel like it's in the middle of going, and as long as he's there. He's a special leader, special person, has the right perspective. It's not, if they lose this game, he'll go around that whole locker room, hug on guys. Like, he's real. It's not BS. And I think those players feel that. And so I'm excited for him. You know, I mean, it's cool to see him on this run. And he's so young in his career. So I'm excited, obviously, to call the game. If Notre Dame wins, I'll be disappointed for Ohio State, but thrilled for Marcus Freeman. And if Ohio State wins, obviously, it'll be a great night. Yeah, thanks, man. Good to see you.
Kirk, you mentioned you're an Ohio State guy, so what's it been like to see your son now going to play for Michigan?
Oh, it's crazy. It's his life, you know. My dad was really cool with me. He was a former captain, and I was recruited by a lot of schools, and he kind of stayed out of it. I knew I was going to be a Buckeye all along. My son, of all my sons, my son Chase is the biggest Ohio State junkie, cry when they lose kind of kid. But Michigan gave him an opportunity. There are so many kids in Ohio that grow up that way, where they love Ohio State, they dream of playing for Ohio State, but the opportunity's not there. So you're not going to not play football. So he was talking to a lot of other schools, and Michigan ended up providing an opportunity to go and be on scholarship. And for him, it was a no-brainer. I'm there as a sounding board. I'm there to listen to him. And I'm there to be his biggest fan. So if he wants to go to Michigan, then I support him 1,000% as a dad. It's a great program, unbelievable academics, great institution, and I'm honored that he has a chance to go up there and play, and I'll be right there with him, cheering him on. I'm sorry, I can't.
When you look at the rosters for Notre Dame and Ohio State, who do you believe are the top three players on the team?
Oh my gosh. I think Jeremiah Love, Riley Leonard, Xavier Watts probably stand out. I mean, there's a lot more, but those guys I think all play a critical role. If Notre Dame, this is one of those games where we've seen a lot of these matchups where there's 10 days to build it up. One team has NFL personnel top to bottom. The other team has a few, but you can clearly see there's a difference in talent. But how many times have we seen that team, remember it's a team sport, the team with lesser talent wins those games? It happens quite a bit. When that happens, why does that happen? It's the little thing. Jim Tressel beat Miami of Florida in 2002 when they went to the very similar but flipped. Miami of Florida, they had a laundry list of NFL players. Ohio State did ultimately as well, but that matchup, all you heard about is Miami's going to win, but by how much? And Ohio State used that as a motivator. So you got to run the ball, you got to win the turnover margin, and the Notre Dame defense that's been elite all year has got to have one of those games where they don't give up big plays. They just play great. So all these little hit yardage things have to go their favor. Maybe a kickoff return or a block punt. They have to win as a team, and they have to play smart. If they do that, they're going to be in it. For Ohio State, I would say, obviously, Jeremiah Smith. Caleb Downs, I think, has a big role in this game because of what they do. And I think Jack Sawyer, along with JTT on the edge, both those guys have been dominant in the postseason. But with Riley Leonard's ability to create, how do they do in containing him? I think will be a big part of this game. For me, it's always been kind of a no-brainer. I mean, I think he's the winningest active coach in the country. I know that 4 straight losses to Michigan for some people really resonates, and I get it. I mean, I went through that as a player. There's nothing worse. I'm not belittling that. I'm just saying if you look at what he's done, to me, what he's done after Michigan, I mean, that was a state of disarray. The just an Ohio State football family, when I say team, fans, just everything. 4 straight loss. And then the flag situation, and then the response on the back end. And for him to right the ship and have this team play the way they did against Tennessee, and then go out to Pasadena and play as dominant as they did out there, and then to take on Texas' best shot. I don't know how many top 5 teams he's beaten already. I mean, he wins big games. So for me, what he's done after Michigan says everything I would need to know. I think he gets the last. If that confetti comes down Monday night, he gets the last laugh, and it'll be interesting to see his response, because you go into a different stratosphere when you win a national championship, and I don't think he needs that. But if he gets it, I mean, nobody can say anything to him, regardless of what happens in any game when you win a national championship.
How did it feel to be able to have that Herbstreit game in Centerville? That was
That was cool. That was great. Centerville means so much to me, always has. Playing for Bob Gregg and Ron Ulrey for me was really a game changer, because I learned about hard work. I didn't realize, I thought my max was here. They showed me it was here. So I have so much gratitude for what my high school football experience did for me. And I've always kind of worn my emotions on my sleeve for my appreciation and gratitude for that experience. So to have a chance to come back, I never really get a chance to come back anymore. It just so happened that my son and St. X were playing there. So to have that moment was very cool, very, very appreciative that they had a nice little thing on the jumbo screen there. And then to have my son go out and play well, it was really surreal. To see it on the visiting sides, which I've never been, and to watch my son in blue and white against the black and gold, it was kind of a little bit of a shock, but kind of life was apparent, I guess. But it was cool to be back.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier with Zach being I guess how unique of an experience is it to see Zach playing on your team and also covering Ohio State?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, having him around. I had my sons at Clemson. One of them played all the way through, and one of them ended up transferring to Ohio State. Zach, I don't know how much detail we've gone into publicly, but he had cardiomyopathy, which was a huge scare. Some of the numbers he had, he should have been in the ICU fighting for his life, but because his heart had adjusted over time, he was able to still be upright. And the way Ryan Day and the staff put their arms around him, found him a role, it wasn't just like, hey, you have a heart, see you later. It was, hey, let's find a way to keep you involved. And he's almost like a GA, really. He's thrilled. I don't know if there's anybody on the team that's more thrilled for the team than Zach. And the way the guys have been, I'm watching him on the sideline. He's a part of it. He's interacting. What a life experience for him to be able to have for the rest of his life. After what he was facing, maybe a heart transplant just 2 years ago, and then to be here. So, yeah, I don't take any of that for granted. And for me to be able to call these games looking down every once in a while and seeing him down there, yeah, it's cool. It takes all I got not to get a tear in my eye, when I'm going through that. It's awesome.
We have one more.
Yeah.
We know you got to go.
Hey, man.
You grew up in there are Notre Dame fans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's a great question because
environment where Ohio State's really been the dominant.
Well, you're right. I mean, growing up in the Dayton area, there's a lot of Catholic high schools. Cincinnati, a ton of Catholic high schools. There are a lot of kids that just grow up Notre Dame fans. I think Ohio State, their brand has grown so much in the last 20 years with Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer, and now, of course, what they're doing with Ryan Day. I think if Ohio State wins, it goes to another level as far as what they mean in the state of Ohio, if they didn't already for most people. But if Notre Dame wins in the state of Ohio, when it comes to recruiting, where Marcus, already being a Dayton, Ohio guy, already has, I think, an angle, does a really good job of hustling. But that brand, it's been a long time since that Notre Dame brand could get up into that stratosphere with the big boys in the Big Ten and the SEC. And if they were able to win, it just kind of further cements. As long as Notre Dame can hold on to him and not let Marcus Freeman go to the NFL, I just think whether they win or lose here, I just feel like that brand is in the middle of climbing. It's been away for a long time. It's hard to make a brand cool. And I feel like Marcus is bringing that back. And it's going to be exciting to see where he goes from here, taking advantage of this experience. Obviously, if he wins, but even if he loses, I think he's going to be able to take this brand to a whole nother level.